webinar series today, and we're introducing a new concept as part of this series, the notion or idea of a intelligent delivery organization. Super excited to have people join in. I'll actually give a minute for more people to come in. But yeah, this is a very exciting time in all of our careers, I believe, given the kind of transformation that's happening overall. And we want to be a catalyst for change, for reminding people to think about how the world is changing around us and how we should be adapting to that change. So very eager to get started here. We have one of our favorite guests who's done a few webinars with us before, Brian Hodges, who's the president of nCloud Integrators. Welcome again, Brian.
Great, thank you. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, so Brian, of course, has a very rich history in the professional services space, having built large organizations, evolved it through different stages. And for today's session, right, we're going to be introducing the concept, as I said, of the intelligent delivery organization. Varun, if we can have the presentation come up as well. Thank you. So yeah, the idea here really is to start this. Let's call it not just a webinar, but a webilog, combination of a webinar and a dialogue between all of us. So we'd love all of your participation in the webinar. I'm going to prompt you to type into chat from time to time. Would love to see answers over there. Of course, people who've joined, maybe we can start with some intros flowing in. Type in your name, designation, which company you're part of, so that we see some messages flowing through, understand who's joined. That'll be good to see. But yeah, we'll get started here. You must see a Q&A tab on the right side of the screen. So feel free to post questions at any point in time. We'll keep a tab on it and answer it from time to time. And yeah, I know it's a common question that comes to us about, will we get the recording? Very much so. We will have a recording shared post the event. Quick intro. I'm one of the founders and the CEO here at Rocketlane. We are a next-gen PSA and client onboarding platform. This is my second SaaS venture. Rocketlane is an all-in-one client project delivery and PSA platform. We're very proud about having this next-gen PSA platform that we've built, which enables people to drive more intensity in their teams to get customers to the results that they want faster. I'll also let Brian introduce himself.
Great, thanks, Sri. Appreciate it. And as mentioned, I am one of the co-founders here at nCloud Integrators and have quite a number of years of experience running professional services organizations at scale. Prior to nCloud Integrators, I was responsible for the global professional services team at Informatica Corporation. I was there for 20 years, and had the great opportunity of growing that practice from practically zero to 450 consultants around the world. So really excited about where we are as an industry today, but even more importantly, where we can go as an industry tomorrow with the help of all of the new tools that are being brought to our disposal. So excited to get this webinar series kicked off.
A little bit about nCloud as well.
Yeah, so we are a professional services organization that helps customers with their professional services efforts, with their customer success efforts, and a host of things around data integration. So we've done, in the 7 years that we've been in existence, we've worked with over 600 customers. We have focused on customers that are looking to move to the next level of digitization and optimization using AI and other tools that are at our disposal. So my team and I are in an exciting space, and I appreciate the opportunity to share some of those ideas and best practices and thoughts with you here on this call today.
Awesome. Thanks, William. So, want to start with a quick question for all of you who've joined, and there's one of those other opportunities for you to type in the chat. When you hear the phrase "organization of the future," what companies come to mind? If you can type in what companies you think about as inspiring from a, they're future ready in a way, what comes to mind? Would love to see some answers from everyone in the chat. SpaceX, nice one. I think we have only one message so far from Vaibhav, which says SpaceX. Tesla from Nitin. Okay. OpenAI, of course. Thank you, David. All right. I think others are still thinking about what new names to add over there. There's obviously a lot happening, right? We see news articles every day about different kinds of innovation and different kinds of progress that companies around us are making, whether it is Google telling us that, hey, 25% of all the code they create is now done by AI, or BMW talking about how they've had major upgrades to how their production lines function thanks to bots coming into play, or just news about AI bots, AI SDRs, purchasing assistants, whatnot, right? There's all kinds of innovation that's happening. But I was thinking about which companies come to my mind when I think of innovation, future ready companies, etc. One of them was definitely Tesla for me, as well. As a Tesla owner, I use the Model 3. For me, it was definitely fascinating the first time to see the car drive on its own, get scary upgrades where it says, hey, we replaced 300,000 lines of code in this update. And I'm like, oh my God, what is that going to do to how it drives the car? So Tesla was definitely one, right? Which I think in a way they broke away in a big way from how cars were being built to reimagine what a modern car should look like and function. I use two more examples here. One is a company called Klarna, and I don't know how many of you have heard of it. Very large. I think they're probably valued at over $30 billion or $50 billion. Payments company from Europe that's gone global, and it's a buy now, pay later solution. And they've always been at the forefront of innovation in some way, right? Right from saying, hey, I'm sure all of us have had frustrating experiences with chat with companies, right? Like chat for support, where you're talking to them, they time you out, you need to start all over again. That's an area where, for example, Klarna was one of the first to champion continuous messaging without timing you out. Simple things, but bringing forward innovation. And we'll see why I added this in a bit, Klarna. But Adobe is, I think, another great company from how they've evolved and continue to evolve. I think they've been at the forefront of every evolution, whether it was on-prem to SaaS, or now in a way SaaS to AI. Always been catching those waves fast enough, innovating fast, and bringing things to market. Now, when we thought about all of these companies, and I see Hannah mentioned NVIDIA. When you think about SpaceX or Tesla or Adobe and so on, we felt there are a few things that are common among these companies. What makes them set themselves apart? What makes us think of them as companies of the future. And here's what we arrived at, right? So we thought, one, these organizations are nimble. They move much faster than what is the norm in their category. SpaceX, even being in like really in rocket science, has still done so much more than what was accomplished before, when you didn't have those kind of private players in the space, right? Or when you think of how they've made things efficient using, like how they're adopting AI. A great example again is Klarna, who I think recently announced how they, in partnership with OpenAI, have launched a bot that's helping them uh, do the work of 700 agents using just AI. This is customer support agents, of course. And then when we think of these companies, we're also thinking about how they're doing things in a smarter way, right? How they're sort of AI enabling themselves to do, or they're just operating with more automation, AI, etc., to do things faster, better. Uh, so I think these were the three themes we identified as what makes us think of certain organizations as organizations of the future. They're efficient, they're smart, they're nimble. Brian, you want to add any companies that came to your mind as you thought about what resonated with you from a you know future organization's perspective?
No, I think you've covered some great ones there, Shri. And I think the key here is that all of these companies, when you look at what all of these are doing, is embracing the opportunity to leverage AI and innovate in ways that are disrupting their perspective industries. And so I think one of the things that we're going to look into here today is encouraging this audience and this team to think about some of those disruptors and some of the ways that they've embraced these tools and opportunities that are there for them to carry your organization forward.
Absolutely. I think when we think about um, why we are doing this series, even, right, as Brian said, we want to be a catalyst in getting a PS leader in your company, to actively think about what is going to take for me to transform my organization. And it could be the whole company, it could be your function, to be an organization of the future, or an intelligent organization as we're defining it. We're going to look at a few examples of how, when it comes to, the webinar topic is, of course, intelligent delivery organization, but let's just stick to intelligent organization, and let's explore what's happening around us. I think one area which clearly there's a lot of action in from an intelligent organization perspective is customer support organizations, where I think there are a lot of generative AI companies that have come in, existing companies that have adapted and adopted generative AI to make their tools better. This is just a quick map of a bunch of companies that we've been aware of who are doing interesting work in this space of customer support, right? And very clearly, I think there have been a lot of success stories as well, of organizations using Gen AI to reduce the amount of workforce they need in the support side, or just scale how many queries are handled by AI, by a chat bot, etc. Clearly, one of the functions within every company that is delivering results using AI. I had a short video. This is coming from Klarna, on how they think about organization of an intelligent organization, right? So the two things over here you can see. One is the news I talked about, where their AI assistant is now doing the work of 700 full-time agents. But there is also this other news item you can see, which is about how Klarna actually moved away from Salesforce and Workday, two major systems that most companies use. And some of this may be a little extra sensationalized than what it really could be. But imagine moving away from the CRM to say, hey, we're going to, we built our own using AI, right? So uh, interesting news and something that, makes us pay attention. And we're going to send you this video. It's an interesting take where the CEO of Klarna talks about how they stopped hiring a year ago. So they were 4,500 people. Now they're 3,500 because they just didn't replace people who left the company. Instead, they started doing more with AI. And the efficiencies that they're gaining are coming back to the team that is sticking and working on adding more efficiencies in the form of increased salaries for them. So a very interesting video. I think if I play it out, probably you won't hear the audio through this platform. So I'll give it a shot. Let me know.
AI can already do all of the jobs that we as
if you're
humans
able to
do.
hear it.
It's just a question of how.
You are? Okay. I'll play it out then.
Already do all of the jobs that we as humans do. It's just a question of how we apply it and use it.
You seem pretty easygoing about AI replacing you, but how do your employees feel?
Well, I think what we've done internally hasn't been reported as widely. Is we stopped hiring about a year ago, so we were 4,500. Now we're 3,500. We have a natural attrition as every tech company, so people stay about 5 years, so 20% leave every year. And by not hiring, we're simply shrinking, right? What we've said to our employees, though, is what's going to happen is the total salary cost of Klarna is going to shrink, but part of the gain of that is going to be seen in your paycheck. So we're going to give some of the improvements that the efficiency that AI provides by increasing the pace at which the salaries of our employees increases. And that's because of that message being very consistent for myself and management for the last year. People internally, Klarna, are just rallying to deploy as much efficiency AI as they can, because it just means it has direct implications on their equity and their cash compensation for working at Klarna.
So that was a very interesting take on how to, catalyze the whole company into thinking about efficiency AI. So efficiency AI refers to the whole category of AI that is focused on delivering efficiencies within the company. And
AI can already do.
When I thought about one more function, marketing, which I think is benefiting a lot from a plethora of AI tools, even looking at what we are doing at Rocketlane, we're like personalizing how we run our ads. We use like a new AI tool to personalize on LinkedIn as an example. And of course, I think there are AI SDRs, there's AI generated content. All design work is heavily done with AI. So this is clearly a function where we have a lot of adoption of AI. And I think, Brian, you had an example from the customer success world.
Yes, and again, I think what's important with this, as we've looked at some examples here, is that you see this opportunity to leverage AI in almost every discipline, and I'm just talking, from a post-sale services perspective, support, customer success, education certainly has seen this, and this example that I have on screen here is just one example that we worked with a client who was challenged a bit with their scorecard. They had a dashboard and they had measures they were using to track the health of their customers. And like many CS organizations have found, sometimes those scorecards aren't as accurate as you would like them to be, and figuring out how to tweak those and how to get more accurate and be able to identify potential churn. In this particular case, leveraging AI and looking for patterns and trends within the customer success data, this particular client was able to go back in time and look at the clients that were green or yellow. They had 12 months of data, and they had 9 green and 8 green and 13 yellow accounts that churned that they were not really expecting to churn. And so just another simple example, this didn't really take a ton of effort to get this analysis completed, to look at their data, do a very simple AI analysis across that data, and then identify what items should have been weighted more heavily or what items should have been addressed as part of their scorecard system. And after having corrected those items in their scorecard, they were able to rerun their card here and would have accurately reflected those churns. So again, just another simple example. And of course, all of the many of the platforms for customer success are racing to provide digital assistance to the customer success teams and a variety of other things. So really excited about what's coming out here in this space. And clearly the leadership and the teams developing these platforms understand the opportunity for efficiencies for the CS organizations. And Sri, I think you're on mute. Somehow you've gotten muted.
Oh yeah. I was just saying, but when we look at what's happening in PS as a function, right? We don't see as much, AI tooling yet for PS. We don't see as much adoption of AI capabilities in PS as a function yet, and got us thinking about why that would be the case. One, of course, is I think we're all handling those fires in delivering things to our customers. We're typically on the back foot, and in a way we believe we're doing very high touch work that is hard to replace with AI, and that stops us from looking deeply into, hey, which aspects of the work we're doing could be automated, could be using AI. And very clearly this discussion, this dialogue, this series is about catalyzing all of us to think harder about this. We'll start with some pieces of work that we have seen. And when I say we don't see much of AI in PS, it's a blanket statement, right? But there are pockets where we've seen some great examples. So we want to bring some of those ideas to light. We'll start with, and I presented this before in a previous webinar, but start with bringing back focus into what could be the breadth of areas where you can use AI in a PS function, right? So just to set the stage on what are the possibilities here, starting with leaders, right? What are leaders using AI for? A very interesting way someone articulated this to me earlier today was to say, hey, as a leader, I use AI as a thought partner. And that was beautiful because, many people, and I don't know how many of you, maybe if you're doing this today, type in yes in the chat. Many people are talking to Claude and OpenAI about things they're thinking about to give it better form, to craft documents, to put together their thoughts, and interact with AI to develop on those thoughts and give it the right form factor. So this could be something as simple as, hey, I need to create a new JD for a function that we're starting within our team, and here are my thoughts. AI, what am I missing out on? Help me put this together as a document. So that dialogue. Or, hey, we want to create a new version of a competency matrix for our organization because we've reorged a little bit in how we think about the functions. And that competency matrix can be generated by AI with your inputs and with a little bit of back and forth with AI. Or putting together the charter for your PS team, right? You don't need to do it from scratch. Work with AI to generate that charter, the version, like the first draft of it, you flesh it out further. So leaders using AI, anybody doing that over here? Okay, I see a lot of yeses, and people, I think Braxton saying Claude is indispensable. So that's nice to hear. I think that resonates with a lot of people. Yeah, so that's one area clearly. Brian, you've seen how people are doing interesting stuff in the actual PS work. Maybe we'll defer to you to talk through some of that.
Yeah, this is an important area from my perspective. Again, as we all know, consultant, our bread and butter is our consultants and their time and their billable time. And so the more as PS leaders, the more we can do to reduce the actual the minutia type work that our consultants are having to deal with, the more time they'll have to think strategically, and the more time they'll have to do great work for their customers. So things that we're seeing kind of across the board to help reduce the PS work is things like AI-driven scripting and custom app development. There have been some tremendous strides, made there. Data analysis, I mentioned just a moment ago, some of the things that we've seen in the customer success space. Very similar very similar things can be done by doing data analysis across your project data that you've got within your PSA tool or wherever you have it, to identify where there are inefficiencies and duplicated work that your consultants are delivering. And so data analysis is a really good area to start thinking about and focusing on leveraging the power of AI. Migration and data transformations, again, I came from, for 20 years, I worked at the data integration company, and today I see so much automation now and so much AI-enabled capability to do automated migrations and data migration, smart data transformations that will make those processes far more manageable for consultants that are on those types of projects. Custom reports and templates that are auto-generated by AI. I mean, those are some things I think that'll be very easy to do here. In fact, there are organizations doing it today. And then finally, I'll just hit that last bullet point there: documentation, statement of work creation. All of these things where, as an enterprise, you have a collection of material and best practices and templates that you've developed over time that can be leveraged with a variety of AI capabilities to automate this and to streamline those processes, documentation and statement of work creation, that it'll help reduce that workload. And for those longtime consultants that have dealt with those challenges of having to provide our clients with solid documentation at the end of the engagement and trying to poke and prod your consultants to continue to update their documentation as they've gone through an engagement, the advent of AI and some of the things that are going to be available there will really help reduce that burden.
Yeah, and I think there's what leaders are doing, there's what the PS consultants, the actual work they do, and then there is, of course, ops as well, right? And I think, again, that's an area where you've done interesting things, Brian. So
yes, yeah. So on the operations and strategy side, I think one of the really interesting capabilities that we're seeing pop up is the ability to do smart resource assignment and to be able to match skill sets with the needs, and actually to even be able to do that in a reverse function. If you've got resources that are on the bench, leveraging AI to find in your portfolio, and again, it depends on the size of your organization and the portfolio of projects you have going at any given time, but leveraging AI to not only find the right resource for a job that needs to get done, but also find a job for a resource that happens to be on the bench. And it's, I think, so it's actually a two-way street that I think is going to be an amazing way to help increase the utilization and increase the rate that your consultants are in front of your customers. And then beyond just the resource assignment, being able to forecast more accurately, being able to take the data from your PSA tool or whatever environment you have your legacy information in, leveraging the AI capabilities to do smart forecasting, to do smart trend analysis, to give you greater comfort as you get close to that year end. I know many companies are just a couple of weeks away from your year end, and you're probably getting lots of inquiries from your CFOs on what your forecast is and is it accurate. And so the ability to leverage AI for that, for forecasting. And then when the dust settles and you have to talk to the CFO about where your profitability is, again, there are tremendous opportunities to leverage the various AI models to evaluate your profitability and to look at where your organization can lean into some of those more profitable projects, and where you may be having revenue leakage or profitability leakage that you weren't aware of. So these are all things that I'm seeing in play today at a variety of organizations, just leveraging some of the tools that are available on the market.
Absolutely. And I think as a last category where you can use AI, one of the things we've thought about is there is the work around the work that every PS team does. So think of this as the meetings that we go on with customers and the work that comes around making those meetings happen on time, ensuring those meetings get documented the right way, and then you sent out the email communication around those meetings to hold people accountable beyond that. And then there's internal and external meetings that are happening from which there is so much knowledge and information that needs to go into different kinds of internal and external documents for context, for others, for handoffs, whatnot, right? So that's an area where handoff document creation can be leveraging AI. The emails that we send up, follow-up emails after meeting, can be using AI. I hope everyone's using like these conversational intelligence platforms like a Gong, Avoma, etc., to do some of those as well in terms of identifying risks from meetings and so on, or even opportunities where you're working with an account, you identify an opportunity, needs to be flagged to the right person to take on that opportunity. And then there is governance, right? Like, where are we seeing risks? Where are we seeing that either budget health or scope health or schedule health or sentiment from the customer is suffering, so that we can get ahead of problems, get ahead of an escalation and help out? So again, an area where AI can be used to play a role to identify what's happening there. And then uh, playbook compliance and guidance. What we mean by that is you have a structure of how you want to do your work. Here is how we want to run a kickoff meeting. Here are the segments we want to break a kickoff meeting into, or a training meeting into, to ensure that everyone is doing things consistently. So AI can now watch that call and understand where there was compliance, where there wasn't, right? What are you following the playbook for versus not? And actually, a lot of these areas are things that we are, the meetings area is already a place where Rocketlane itself has, developed some capabilities from a, meeting automation standpoint, and emails and document creation standpoint, and also the account intelligence, playbook guidance is areas we're working on. So very, curious to hear from people about their experiences trying things in these areas, as well as eager to partner to bring these kind of capabilities to all of you. But yeah, getting into specific examples, I had a couple of examples here on how we've seen companies use this, AI for custom dev and app migration. Uh, I'm not going to name these companies, but uh, there's one company that has this app marketplace, right? And you can build custom apps on this marketplace. And what used to take 2 weeks to build a custom app for a customer is now taking their PS team 2 hours, 3 hours to build, because of using AI to code these custom apps. Likewise, there is a large database company, and I think I've talked about this in the past. There was a presenter at PropelX in London who actually brought this up, where they have these huge enterprise projects, which it's migrating legacy app to a modern app so that they can migrate to the modern database. And these were 2-year projects, which potentially could succeed or fail at the end of it. And so enterprises did not have the appetite to do these projects. Now that they've reduced the time using AI to do the actual app migration, they've brought it down from 2 years to 3 months. And that is helping their business soar. That's really helped them with bringing in so much more new enterprise business. And they used to have around 300 people in their PS team. They're planning to grow that to 600. Think about that, AI creating jobs for the first time. Another example I had was, you know, the notion of intelligent organization is not just about AI, right? There is also a notion of efficiency, and towards that extent, I think there is a lot that is happening from a automation standpoint and can happen from a self-serve standpoint as well. We've seen with some of our customers how they're able to use, and this is a company in the salon and spa space, which has built a lot of automation, built a very beautiful customer portal, which is helping them hold customers accountable in a better way to do more on their own and use PS help only where they need to. PS is relieved of a lot of follow-up type work that they had to do to get customers to do some actions because of the automation and the self-serve experience. So that's also part of an intelligent organization, right? Are you actively thinking about where to bring in those efficiencies?
Yeah, and I know that Sri is always shy about talking about product specific things, but I want to echo something that he was talking. And at nCloud, not only do we work with clients who are using Rocketlane, but we use Rocketlane ourselves internally, and my consultants are. At any given time, may be responsible for up to 8 to 10 different engagements at a time. And so and those engagements vary from expert services to onboarding engagements. And as you can imagine, I'm sure as many of you have within your own practices, at the end of every one of those client meetings, whether it's a workshop or it's some sort of an impromptu training session or just even your weekly statuses, the time and effort it takes for our consultants to write all of those up and summarize them can take 10 to 15 minutes, even if they're templatized, because you still got to make them personal. You've still got to make them accurate with what was covered on the call. And so one of the beta, and I know this is beta, and I won't press Sri for when it's going to be beyond beta, but we are fortunate enough to be working with this with our Zoom. We use Zoom, and so with our Zoom recordings, we are able to, right within the Rocketlane application, bring up that Zoom recording, and then within the application, you have the ability to create a summary call out of that, or summary email for that call. And there are a variety of ways you can. So if you do the next build, so that what you see there is just a straight sort of call summary. And then Sri, if you could do the next build, there is also an option to pull out very specific action items or next steps. So it just depends on the type of call that you just had, or the type of information that you want to pass along to your customer participants from that call. There are a variety of things that you can select from. So, when I look at this, and I timed it myself a couple of times just to see, I was estimating that I would save about 10 minutes on my project summaries, or my call summaries with my customers. And if I took that savings across my team and across all the projects they have over the course of a year, that results in about 3 or 4 more FTEs. So again, every little bit helps, and every little bit of additional automation we can provide our consultants through the tools that are available is going to save them time. And frankly, this type of work is not something that's super exciting. So being able to get this done quickly and off your plate as a consultant is pretty exciting.
Absolutely. And I know there are a bunch of customers as well on the webinar today. So anyone wants to turn this on in beta for your teams, do reach out.
I might have opened a can of worms for you there, Sri. I hope not. But all right. And then so I've mentioned this a couple of times, and I think one of the other, again, having come from a data integration company, I've got a real affinity for leveraging the value of data. And one of the things that we do and that we've done with clients in the past, and I'm sure that this is going to become an embedded part of many of the tools that we have available on the market, the PSA tools. But today, what we're able to do is take information, for example, from a client that is evaluating their portfolio, trying to figure out how to modify some of their offerings and how to tweak or lean into one offering for another. And so in this example, the question from the client was, we have a standard onboarding offering, and then we have a premium onboarding offering. And the assumption was that the premium onboarding offering would actually take a bit longer. In fact, they were expecting it to be quite a bit longer than their standard. And doing an analysis of the data from all of the projects that were delivered, we're able to identify that even though they priced their premium offering 45% higher, the average effort for delivery was only about 8% higher. Now you can see that the some of the call outs here were at the beginning of the engagement. The premium put a little bit more focus on setting the stage, putting the right context in place, doing some more white glove prep work with the client to begin that kickoff and initialization phase. But what they demonstrated with this is that by just doing a few of these additional things, they were able to reduce some of the downstream activities to a lower amount than what they were doing with their standard implementations. So this gave them a lot of great ideas on how they could modify their standard offering to achieve some of these gains, but then they've also discovered some real profitability with the premium offering that they put out there. Again, this was a very straightforward process for gathering the data you have within your PSA, pointing it or having an AI natural language processor look at the data and do some analysis on it, and then come back with some metrics like this. So very powerful stuff that's out there today that can be done today. And if you're not doing this, I would certainly encourage you to look into leveraging AI to analyze your delivery proficiency.
Yeah, and I also know Brian and team are actually helping a bunch of companies to get more AI ready with their data, marry data from different systems and query that data in interesting ways. So I think definitely something to explore, and an area where you can potentially partner as well with Brian. So, I think there's a lot more that is happening, and we want to bring some great stories to light. So those of you who are doing interesting work using AI, a lot of you said yes, you're using Claude as a thought partner or AI as a thought partner. Great to see that. But other examples, please do reach out to us. We have some questions at the end as well on the same, because we want to showcase great work happening in this space that everyone can learn from. And when we think about 2025 and beyond, I think every organization needs to challenge themselves to transform themselves into AI ready and intelligent organizations, as we say. And it is about how you can show those efficiency gains, because it's an expectation of every organization. I'm gonna have Brian share a few more things over here from some specifics, but what you're seeing here is the idea that we are going to have a bunch of areas that we can bring focus in our webinar series itself to help each of you understand, bring great examples that all of us can learn from together.
Yeah, and I think one of the things that I'm sure this is a phrase that you all have probably heard, and there are a lot of different people that are taking credit for it, but I do like the phrase that AI may not take your job or may not replace you, but somebody that knows how to use AI might just replace you. And these, all of the things that you see up here are just different headlines that have popped up over the last year or so, which I think, whether you've seen these or some of the many others that are out there, certainly many CFOs and leadership teams have seen these kinds of flashy headlines stating that there's so much that can be done, there's so much that should be done. And so I'm certain that many of you on the call today have been asked by your peers or your leadership teams, what are we doing around AI? How are we leveraging the tools that are in front of us to do more with less? And gee, I saw how this company was able to embrace automation to stay competitive, or they were able to balance growth and profitability using AI. The devil is often in the detail with this, but it is, even though many of these headlines are a bit flashy and the devil's in the detail of what's going on there, it is very clear that we're on a path that is not going to turn back. And so what I thought I'd do here is just talk about some things that if you haven't done so already, just some things to think about for 2025, and then maybe a little bit beyond that. So if we could go to the next slide. We've been talking about artificial intelligence, and AI means more than just intelligent means more than just artificial intelligence. And so today, even without some of the incredibly capable new AI tools that are starting to pop up all over the place, there are a ton of capabilities that are built into PSA tools or just processes that you can consider improving your PS function today. Things like reusable knowledge base templates, or standardizing client engagement playbooks, streamlined onboarding with pre-built templates, automated project management workflows, and templatized proposals and reporting. Again, we at nCloud, we leverage Rocketlane, and one of the things I think is really important for services leaders to look at each of your offerings and identify, well, first of all, do you have a methodology? Do you have a template that you can, call it a methodology, call it a template, call it a, automated workflow, whatever you want to, however you want to categorize it. But there are capabilities within the PSA tools today that will facilitate your acceleration in streamlining your delivery motions. And as I said, we leverage Rocketlane for the projects that we deliver, the onboarding projects. We have a lot of automation that we build into those workflows so that we can hold ourselves accountable. We can provide red flags to our consultants. We can provide red flags to our customers for when there are deliverables that are being that are blockers for one side or the other, whether it's us holding things up or the client holding things up. So my point with all of this is, if you're sitting in your office and thinking, yeah, this AI stuff is great, but we've got some mandates internally that we've got to do some things before we can leverage AI. Here are some things to just think about from a core automations perspective with things that are likely available today in whatever PSA tool you have access to. So I wanted to just put that on the table as something that can be done today, this year, this quarter, as you're looking for efficiencies. And then if we could go to the next slide. When I think more long term, now so beyond the items, the tactical things that can be done today, thinking forward now on how AI might create an impact, there are a ton of things to think about for how AI is going to affect what we deliver. So, for example, I'm seeing solutions popping up around proactive monitoring and optimization. So if you've got a solution that you've created with your product, there are ways now that you can do proactive monitoring and optimization of that, leveraging AI. Data-driven insights, as I've mentioned multiple times, being able to leverage the data that you have, not just for your projects, but if you think about the data, the gold mine that you have with the way that your customers use your product and how they distinguish themselves amongst one another in their industries, that data insight is gold for you to take to your customers, and AI is going to help you do that. And AI solutions as a service, it's if you just Google AI solutions as a service, you'll start to see a lot of interesting things that many of the large consultancies are doing around this. Maybe not as much around the tech services space, but definitely standalone consultings are leaning into that. And on the how, we've touched on a lot of the how already: automation for your routine work, collaboration that's enhanced with AI. So there are ways that you can leverage AI, and I can see this rolling out in the next 3 to 5 years here, getting the collaboration between you and your customers, doing mock environments and setting things up in a collaborative way for development with your customers. And then finally, the how much. AI as the example we looked at earlier, the 3,500 consultants or employees versus the 4,500. Again, being able to leverage AI to automate for your cloud delivery, augmented teams through AI, and being able to do 24/7 service. These are all things that may not be doable for your organization today, but there are things that are popping up and ways that other organizations are driving their efficiencies. If we could go to the next slide here, conscious of time, I'm going to have to pick up the pace a bit. But from an organization, so now you think about some things that you can work on today, some ideas on what might be coming in the future, and some things that you can think about. The other point that I should make here is that as an organization, obviously you have to pick your battles. You have to decide where you're going to have time and energy to focus. But as you look ahead and think about the impact of AI on your organization, some things to think about from your organizational design perspective. Silos are going away, whether it's silos within your professional services organization or silos across the different services teams. AI is going to be a more compelling driver to reduce and eliminate those silos. The data-driven decision-making is going to have an impact on your operations teams and some of the investments that you'll make there. Workforce evolution with technology. Again, a lot of companies are starting to think about, how do we train our consultants to do things that are in an AI-enabled world to help them understand the opportunity they have and that they're not being displaced. Client-centric structures are popping up and will be part of many services organizations as you go forward, as well as agile operations and a shift to strategic enablement. These are just a few items to think about from an org design perspective, and look forward to sharing more detail on that on some of the webinars that we have ahead of us. And I will say a word of caution, just a little bit of humor here. This is the graphic that was shown for my image here, and it is an AI driven. So this is from Headshot Pro. I took 20 pictures from my cell phone, put it into this app, and this is what it came up with. And it actually came up with a lot of different options. So again, on one hand, that's a close proximity of what I look like, but you've got to be very careful because, while AI is very good, there are still some growing pains. And so this is another option that it came up with that I decided not to go with for this headshot. So again, AI is great, but it's still in its relative infancy. And so as service leaders, we need to be cautious. And then the next slide, for those of you that have been paying attention to the news today, Chat GPT was down for a very significant time today, and so there were a lot of organizations that have rolled this out in some fashion to their teams. And again, as services leaders, as we think about what we're doing for our organizations, how we're leveraging AI, you've got to remember some of the tried and true redundancy concerns that you have around your platform, around your tools, and around your capabilities, because there are dependencies to these when we have our organizations leveraging these technologies. So just a word of caution there.
Yeah, and I think as Brian said, there is a lot that's going to change in our world. We're rethinking what sort of roles people need to play. Where are we going to have AI assistants? What is the ratio of different kinds of teams that you're going to have? Hey, project managers can take on, engagement managers can manage more projects than before, versus consultants have to do different kind of work that is more AI skills. All of that is changing. I'm curious to hear a little bit. As I said, we want this to be not just webinar but webilog. So curious to hear from you all on the chat what initiatives you are driving today using AI. What are you identifying and implementing from an efficiency standpoint? How are you thinking about responding faster to changes you're seeing around you? What are you doing to enable your teams in a better way to turn into smarter versions of themselves? I know we are at the fag end. We have 5 minutes left. It'll be great to hear some things from you all around what ideas you're bringing to life in your organizations. Here we go. I think Wes has added a couple. So they're redoing all their data sheets with AI. So that's interesting there, I think. And then also career pathing is being determined using AI. So again, this is the leader doing their work, partnering with AI. So nice to see that, Wes. Anyone else doing interesting work? Maybe I should start calling out names I see online. All right, we have Monica writing industry white papers in half the time. That's great to see, and I think it's good material that's going to help win more customers if we create more of those. Daniel Hardy talks about creating an implementation playbook using AI, and again, I think this is where things that we usually don't find the time to do because it's in our head. We're not able to find the energy to put it together fully, but partnering with AI, we can do a better job. Hannah says AI is helping us make decisions about PS KPIs and what to consider. That's interesting. Would love to learn more, Hannah. Hemen is talking about analyzing support tickets, issues, and resolutions as a RAG and providing it as an internal search. And Hemen comes from since I know him personally, comes from a AI company itself, H2O. So yeah, interesting there, Hemen.
Great. Perfect. It's exciting to see that there are a lot of organizations that are leaning into this in some way or another. And again, I would encourage all of the audience today, if your organization hasn't begun to look at something, there are a lot of options that we've put on the table here this afternoon to consider, and just getting started with something that makes sense for you and that something is available to you today. I'm sure there are some things in the topics we've covered that can get you going.
Absolutely. And I think brainstorming, very wild brainstorming this morning with one of our customers gave even more ideas around what could be the future. Think about we all go on pre-kickoff calls with our large customers one-on-one. We're trying to understand their goals to put together the right kickoff deck and prepare for that. What if an AI bot were doing that call with each of the right stakeholders, collecting information, synthesizing, creating the deck for you, preparing you for the kickoff meeting, right? That was a fun thought exercise, and I'm sure there's many more. So I would
Yes.
say, encourage all of you to do radical thinking, not incremental thinking. It may not be possible today, but it's going to take us halfway there if we explore, if we come up with those radical ideas. And overall, I want to end this with saying, hey, let's all move now, or we may be left behind. As Brian already said, you won't be replaced by AI, but you could be replaced by someone who uses AI better than you. So let's all do
And I
this.
see someone has a question about PowerPoint AI. I'm happy to connect with you on that offline to give you some thoughts on that.
Yeah, I've heard of Beautiful and presentations.ai, but and there's also Matic, which does some automation, though it feels like you probably don't need a full-fledged tool for that. But yeah, I think there are interesting tools out there.
Yeah, absolutely.
Great. Thank you all for joining today's session. Please write to us if you have more ideas. If you have things you want to showcase, great work you're doing in your company, we're happy to be a partner in that, either in the webinar series or at Propel, our annual conference happening in May. So don't miss out on Propel this year. It's going to be fantastic. Thank you. And thanks, Brian, for joining and sharing all these thoughts.
Thanks for having me, and thanks everybody for attending. Have a great rest of your day.